Florida State, Miami, the Canes versus the Noles. Michael, it is rivalry week. Probably not the setting that we wanted, but it's time, man. And when anytime this game comes around, like it's still, man, it's just there's so much around this game. It's such a big game between two programs that don't like each other. I absolutely hate Miami. And I know, Michael, they say hate is a really strong word. And I only use that because I can't think of a word that's even stronger because I hate Miami. There's always that conversation, that debate. Is it Florida or is it Miami, the biggest rival? Miami, for me, takes the cake. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this up. We might get stomped down, but it's you down forever, baby, because
That's right.
I just cannot stand Miami. So we're going to get into previewing this game. We're going to look back at a little bit of the Duke game because we were not able to get a post-game show last week for you guys. We're just going to share some quick thoughts on that. You guys obviously watched that travesty, so we don't want to spend too much time doing that. Some overall thoughts, then we're going to get into that. So No Nation, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sticking with us. Can Florida State have a miracle in Miami? Probably not, but we're going to talk about it anyway. So, Michael, thank you for joining me. How are you, my friend?
Oh man, thanks Jesse for having me. Yeah, I mean, who knows what they can do? We know we can't score more than 16 points. We
That
know
we
that
do
for
know.
sure. uh,
You can take
and
that to the bank.
you could take that to the bank. And absolutely, I don't care if we're the worst team in college football playing Miami. It will always be you down. Bunch of moral gables over there. They might beat our butts this year, but we still have a national championship and they have nothing in the last 20 years. So there.
Exactly. And they're going to bring up the argument, oh, we got 5, you got 3, whatever. You've
Ooh,
been irrelevant. Do something now that you've been out the Big East. You,
exactly.
you still haven't won the All Canes conference yet. So we'll see. And I mean, look, man, I got to give them credit. Like, they look good this year.
They
And
do.
so we're going to talk about them a little bit later in the show, but they look good. And it's probably going to go one way. It's probably going to go one way or the other. We probably expect it to be ugly. But, man, look, I mean,
Yeah.
the funny thing is about this game is like so many Miami fans are on social media and whatnot. And I know it's just Miami fans like, man, this is at the end of the day, we can go home and say we're not Miami fans because that is the
Correct.
biggest trash bag fan base that I have ever interacted with in my life. Like there are every terrible fan base. And look, I go to Georgia games, I go to SEC games and do all that stuff. And then there's Miami. They take the cake. But they seem to think that if they win this game by 30, 40 points, that like Florida State's going to stop playing football, that we're going to get the death penalty. It's like, man, you guys forget we beat you by 42 points in your own place
In your
2
own
years
house.
ago.
Exactly.
Came in your house, put our feet on your couch, and beat you by 42 points just 2 years ago. So like, and I know they beat us by 42 in our place, 3 or 4 years ago. So like,
Correct.
man, this is football. It happens. It just so happens to be. Yeah, and I will say this, man, like this is one of the best rivalries in all of college
That's
football.
right.
I relish the days when when there was a lot on the line for this game, when these were
Yeah.
these two teams were both ranked, and it's our fault this year. For the
Yep.
last 2 decades, it's pretty much been Miami's fault. They haven't
Yes.
held up their end of the deal. But that's the unfortunate part is like, man, this could have been a game day game. This could have been
That's
like
right.
a top 15 matchup. And it's our fault this year. It's usually Miami's fault. It's our fault this
Usually.
year. So either way, man, however this game goes, it is Florida State, Miami. It is always a rivalry. It's a big week. But man, I just want to see this game get back to the way it used to be, where there was national championship implications in this game, because man, this is one of the most heated, fun rivalries in all of college football. So I mean, I'm not necessarily looking forward to this Saturday, but man, this is one of my favorite weeks of the year either way, because it is Miami hate week, and man, I do enjoy this rivalry one way or the other. I just can't stand their fans,
No,
all 5 of
absolutely.
them.
All 5 of those fans that show up every time and they're green. Listen, the Miami fan base, you're going to meet terrible people in that fan base. I know some really cool people out there. So if you're one of those cool people that you're a Miami fan and you know me, we're good. Okay. But the most of Miami's
Yeah.
fan base is something else. They're just not great people. And so it is going to be what it is. Listen, Miami might blow Florida State out. Miami might run roughshod over us. All the great things. Or they might forget to take a knee and we pull up the upset. We're not sure. But whatever it might happen, at the end of the day, it's still going to be Miami, Florida State. It's still going to be intense. You're guaranteed to see big hits. You're guaranteed to have, wildish takes, outlandish takes on both sides
Yeah.
of the ball, whatever it may be, because it's Miami, Florida State. It's a blue blood rivalry of college football. It's what
Yeah.
makes college football awesome and amazing, even if one team is not doing the other. And I absolutely agree with you. It's usually been Miami. Florida State, we've mostly held up our bargain. This year, we're the trash team, and we can say that because we're fans of that program, of our program. But I still think that no matter what, those kids are going to show up. They're going to play. Mike Norvell will have them as psyched out because he is, he's been pretty good in this rivalry. So
Yeah.
we'll see how they show up. And regardless of whatever happens, it's still you down.
Yeah, 100%, man. And that's the thing. Like, we're terrible. I mean, there is no doubt about it. And so, like, oh, congratulations, you beat us. Well, so does everybody else. But but we're still going to talk a little trash because, man, that's what rivalries are for. That's what
That's
make
right.
them fun. And I know Miami fans are going to find the comment section, so just deal with it. But I did hear one thing funny before we focus back on this Duke game real quick. I did hear a comparison early in the year when they started out good, where someone was like, "If you live in the South, then you're familiar with this." But where they said the Miami fan base are like cicadas. They come out every 20 years and they make a bunch of noise and then they die off and they go away. Like, that is exactly what happened this year. Like, they've just been hibernating in the ground for 20 years and they get a couple wins and they come out. And so, but again, man, like, hey, look, they're good this year. They're probably going to make the ACC championship game. They're probably going to make the playoffs. At the end of the day, man, they still haven't won anything. You're 7-0.
Right.
You're doing great. Go win something, and then we'll talk. So with that being said, let's just take a quick look back at this FSU Duke game that happened last week. Again, another really disappointing loss. I'm sorry, guys, that I kind of talked you guys into thinking Florida State could win. I fooled myself. I fooled Michael. I fooled you guys. But you know what? Hey, if we stop dropping passes and don't kick it into our back, which I think that was a lot to do with the hold, actually, not Fitzgerald. You win the game. And so you were in the game. Like, man, the thing is, like, you held them to 180 yards of total offense and still lost the game. It takes a special kind of suck.
Yes, it does.
To lose a game when you hold a team to 180 yards. That is absolutely atrocious that they found another way to do this. It was another week under 20 points. And Michael, I don't know if you knew this or not, but I saw a stat come up today. And man, Mike Norvell, I'll give it to him, man. He is setting records. He is just doing it in a bad way. Florida State is the one and only FBS team in the country to not score over 21 points this season. It is awful. It is terrible. Wow. The only team in FBS to not score. We literally have the worst offense in all of college football. And what's interesting about that is I was looking at some things when I saw that stat. 5 of the 7 teams that we faced so far are averaging on defense, giving up over 21 points a game anyway. So the only 2 that are under that are at 19.7, and that's Duke and Cal. So, like, we can't even get to the average that they're giving up to be able to, and that's against FBS teams. But man, it's terrible. We still have not put up 300 yards in a single game this season. It's just unthinkable, man. As a guy who comes in with an offensive, supposed to be an offensive guru and the things they did. And I understand when you look back at last year's offense, a lot of that was covered up by the NFL talent that you had, by Jordan Travis at quarterback. I understand all that. But man, I mean, this offense is worse than 2020. This offense is worse than the 2021 season. I mean, you literally scored 0 touchdowns coming off a bye week. How is it this bad? You scored only 2 more field goals than Elon, who's a 2-5 FCS team or 1-5 FCS team, and you scored 8 less points than Middle Tennessee State, who's 2-5. This was an embarrassing loss, mostly because your defense kept you in it and you just couldn't do. This is the most inept offense in all of college football, and it happened again this week. It's like, man, come on, you have got to figure something out.
Well, I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous that it's almost like you can predict it every time they get the ball. Okay, it's either 3 and out or a long drive, only to get somewhere near either close to the red zone or in the red zone, and you can just call it. You can call your shot, interception. We're gonna kick the ball into offensive lineman's booty hole. We're going to we're gonna drop a surefire touchdown pass. We're gonna hit the referee on the side of the head. We're gonna throw the ball into the stand. We're gonna do something. You can just call it. Call your shot, and Florida State will do it. Like I was telling you in the pre-show, we find ways to lose games. Like I think we're inventing new ways to
Yeah.
lose games, to not
Yeah.
be able to score. It's absolutely ridiculous. And to come off a bye week, you literally had 2 weeks to get this offense to be somewhat
Right.
coherent with a new quarterback, and you couldn't score a touchdown. You needed a special teams play by Sam Singleton, shout out to you, to get a touchdown. Absolutely. And when your defense, I mean, first of all, Duke, credit to Duke, they made the plays when they were. That
Yep.
defense is moderately okay. You should have scored 40 points on that defense. You should have scored more points on that defense. And that offense was absolute trash. Their offense was just as garbage as ours. They just happened to
Yeah.
make the play when they could, right? And every time we had a chance to make the play, we could not. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it gives you no hope in any game. You just know once they get to that 16-point mark, you're like, all right, that's it. We ain't scoring anything else.
Right. And that's the thing, man. Like when you talk about this defense, I do think this defense is playing semi well. Like they
Yeah.
just get put in ridiculous situations over and over and over by this offense. But there was so many people after that game that was like, "Yeah, but you held them to 180 yards." And granted, that's a good performance. It's the lowest total that they've had all season. That offense is not good. Like, so you should have held them to what they scored anyway, because that's not a good offense. So you did what you should have done against a bad offense, but your offense is so terrible. And that's what's so depressing is like your defense can keep you in games, but your offense is almost going to ensure that you lose every single game that you play because they can't even muster 20 points. I mean,
Well,
it's almost like Mike Norvell is a golf coach and thinking we have to score the lowest score to win the game. Like, dude, that's not how this works. It's
well,
not how it works.
it's a problem when your offense is scoring for the other team. That's a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Like when your offense is putting your defense in a situation which becomes harder and harder for them to keep them out of the end zone. You notice that when Florida State had those three straight turnovers, Duke scored off of all 3 turnovers. All
Yeah.
3. Honestly,
Yeah.
they don't have those 3 turnovers. Florida State probably wins the game.
Right. No, I agree. And I mean, the thing is, like, I also have to say, we are talking about this before the show. Like, first off, look, DJ, you're still not good. And I hope you have success somewhere far from Tallahassee. But I do think we almost, as a fan base, we almost owe DJ a slight apology here because, like, man, the supporting cast around these quarterbacks, and obviously Brock deserves a lot of blame for the things that he did. 3 straight
Yes.
turnovers is terrible. I know some of that pick was on the wide receiver, and the route that he ran was terrible.
Yeah.
But the same crap keeps showing up, man. 18 pressures, 6 sacks. Brock had a 40% pressure rate. Luke had a 57.1% pressure rate. You had 3 drops, only a 50% catch rate. You literally only caught half the passes. You had 4 turnovers in the game. You were 2 of 14 on third down. The same thing every week keeps showing up. It doesn't matter if you put Jameis Winston or Tom Brady or whoever back there. You could put Cam Ward back there at quarterback for us, and we would still drop half the passes, and we would get sacked half the time because this offensive line sucks, and these receivers are terrible. It is what it is. I personally would have left Ron Dugans in Durham, North Carolina, and made him find his own way home. But it's just, man, again, like it's DJU was part of the problem. But the same things keep showing up no matter who you have back there at quarterback. And so no matter what you do, you're not going to have success. And I mean, again, this is the part where it's almost like and I apologize for not having a show since last week, but it's like, man, we just keep rehashing the same conversation, which is frustrating because this team does not get better at all week over week, at least on offense. I think the defense is okay.
Yeah. Yep.
But the offense they continue to wet the bed every single week. It's like there's literally no improvement.
Exactly. Well, and I think what is also getting progressively worse, along with the offense, is the offensive play calling and just ridiculous decisions. Why do we call a timeout before we need to punt the ball? Why do we waste that timeout that could have been used later when we actually needed it? Because we're afraid to lose 5 yards. I literally almost chucked my TV out the window when that happened. Like, why are we calling a timeout here, Mike Norvell?
Right.
Why? For 5 yards? We got to punt anyways.
And you have one of the best punters in the country.
Exactly.
I mean, I agree, man. Like, and I agree.
What are we doing?
some of the stuff, the play calling is not creative. They're not scheming anything up. It's just like they do the same thing every week and they keep hoping it works. Like at this point, I'm ready to bring the damn dude out of the stands with the Waffle House menu because I think he can probably
Exactly.
get a smothered covered onto, whatever is probably going to work better than what we're running. You know what I mean? That all-star special, grits
Oh
no
man.
hash browns or whatever. Like, give me some raisin toast out wide. Like, that's probably
Yes.
going to work better than this crap that we got on the field every single week. Like, that's just where we're at, man. We just it's this offense is a joke, and it's like it's hard to understand how we got here because I know this offense had problems last year, but this is historically
This
bad.
is historic. Well, this is historic, Jesse. And the fact of the matter is that when this offense got bad last year, yes, they had Jordan Travis who could, make something out of nothing. But when Jordan Travis went down and they had to go win games at Florida, they had to go win the ACC championship, Mike got really creative. He got
Right,
really creative, went to Wildcat. He did different things. Where is that Mike Norvell? Why
right.
haven't we seen that all year? We've been doing the same thing. If they call another dadgum wide receiver screen out wide so that and then not block the guy so that the end guy comes in and tackles the dude for a 2-yard loss one more dadgum time, I'm literally driving down to Doak Campbell Stadium, packing Mike's bag for himself and getting him a Christmas tree to put out on the yard. Because I mean, it's ridiculous.
Exactly. I mean, that's what's so frustrating, man. Is like we saw in 2020 when they beat North Carolina. We saw that beautiful play call where they
Yes.
schemed open. Preston Daniel was over there, doing jumping jacks in the middle of the field by
Yes.
himself. We've seen the Wildcat work. We've seen
Yes.
these things work, and it's like you just don't even want to attempt anything. Now, maybe he's saving them for this game. I hope so.
Be
But like,
nice.
it's so head scratching how bad this team has looked on offense. And again, the defense is not perfect,
No.
but I think they are giving you chances to win. But the offense is just so inept, man. It is so inept, and I really do think like. Again, it's the same conversation that we have all the time. I think you got to make a lot of changes, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. That's our vent session for the Duke game. We had to get it out of the way. We wanted to bring that to you guys a little bit because we didn't get to talk about it before. But I do want to touch on just a couple of things here from that Duke game on some positives because
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a little bit of sunshine in the middle of what feels like just complete darkness because it is it's bad.
Whew.
But there were some positives. I will say that. First off, man, Luke Kromenhoek, please do not transfer because I think
Please
that
don't
dude
transfer.
is going to be the truth, man. Like
Yeah.
you're literally your first college attempt. You couldn't have drawn it up more beautiful than that. First off, before we even talk about the throw, the fact that, of course, he was under pressure.
Yep.
Of course, they dropped the pass. Of
Yep.
course, that happened.
All those things.
But a beautiful step up in the pocket
Mm.
and avoid the pressure. I mean, that's like veteran level stuff. And then you deliver a 55-yard
A
dime
flick.
right in the basket. Of course, we drop it.
Of
Why
course we
not?
did.
Right? To Portier, who Mike Norvell, you're going to hear earful from me in just a second about this. But I thought, man, when you saw that, now I know Brock had a terrible game. I get that. He looked good against Clemson.
Yeah.
So I don't want to like totally cast him aside yet
Correct.
because we've seen some good, we've seen some bad. I can't really cast judgment on him yet. He's still young, he's still developing. But we've said this for a while. I've said this for a while that I think Luke Kromenhoek is the future of the quarterback room. I like that they put him in. Now, with that being said, at the same time, I, for the love of goodness, Michael, cannot understand why they put Brock Glenn back in the game.
I
Why
can
didn't you
explain
keep
that.
why
Yeah.
not keep rolling with Luke, who seemed to be there? And I understand people are worried about him getting hurt behind this line and all that stuff, but like, I mean, if Brock gets hurt, he's gonna have to play anyway. So
Yeah.
I would have left him in. That's on me. But I do think that he had a beautiful showcase of a little bit of his, he had,
Yeah.
and that wasn't his only good throw of the night.
Yeah. No.
So
Yeah.
it
One to
was
Hakeem.
right. It was disappointing. And
Dropped.
I was standing right behind his family when they dropped that too, man.
Mm.
Everybody just exploded, and then it was like, oh, of course.
Of course.
But then to the other couple of little things I want to touch on here is they finally ran for over 100 yards again.
Yep.
That was finally nice. They had 160 yards on the night, 4.1 yards per carry. That was nice to see. Mike did do some things like the fake
He
punt.
did.
Hey,
Yep.
hey, there
Hey,
you
come on
go,
now.
Mike. Do some
Yeah.
stuff. Morlock finally caught something. Look at that. Surprise, surprise. Surprised he didn't drop it. And then, like we talked about, the defense did hold Duke to 180 yards, 3.1 yards per play. That's their lowest of the season, only 16 offensive points. And that's also considering that they gave them the ball in plus territory 2 times in a row, not including the pick six, which they scored on. But this offense is just so bad. But I think outside of the repeated positions that this offense leaves this defense to deal with, to clean up, this defense is not playing bad. Now, they were terrible
Yeah.
against Georgia Tech and Boston
Yeah.
College. We got to
Yeah.
give them that. But since then, we've seen a steady increase in how they've played. And I think this was a really good game. Granted, like we talked about, Duke's offense is not great,
Right.
but this was a good game by the defense. And the last thing I'll throw it back to you, obviously, like you already said, shout out Sam Singleton on the kickoff return touchdown. They must have seen something
Yep.
because, Deuce Spann, he's had big returns in the past, wasn't doing anything.
Right.
They replace him. Sam Singleton gets in, has a kickoff return touchdown in his very first game. I hope that's something that we can maybe get, throughout the rest of the season. You can see some flashes there. The guy's got incredible speed. And this tells me you got to find ways to get him the ball besides on
Right.
kickoff return. So, like,
Right.
I think you need to find him ways to get him the ball. But, shout out to him for doing that because it's really the one thing that kept us in the game when it felt like things were really about to fall apart.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with your positives. Like I thought Luke, for the first couple, the first two drives that he was in, I thought he did. I was like really excited. I mean, he had pocket presence. He had clear command of what he was doing out there. Obviously, the throw to Portier, my gosh, I jumped up out of the seat.
That's an NFL throw.
That's an NFL throw, only to watch it fall out of Portier's hand. Like he just dropped my child. Okay. And then to have that throw to Hakeem where he's like literally making something happen. The ball is right in the breadbasket and Hakeem just drops it again.
He heard footsteps.
He heard footsteps and just my goodness. And so I thought some of that was really good. I will say that I actually do understand the reason, the decision to bring to take Luke out and bring Brock in. Because I think Brock had just had three consecutive turnovers. And then so you bring Luke in. They already had a plan to bring Luke in. But then what was starting to happen on towards the end of Luke's time on play was that he was starting to see ghosts. He was starting to see some things. He was holding on the ball way too long, which was causing sacks. There were several throws when you go back and watch that were actually kind of open. Now, I guess he probably thought they weren't going to catch it, which I would have understood, but they were open and he doesn't even throw it. He doesn't throw it because I think he began to think too much. The game started to speed up for him. And you don't want to ruin a quarterback, especially somebody you're almost banking your future on. So I understood why they put Brock in, back in. And when they did, he actually began to play better. He began to play like he was playing at Clemson. We just couldn't get anything going. So I understand that. I think the defense has been improving. The communication's been improving. You're not seeing a lot of wide open players all the time. You're still seeing a few from occasion. Tackling is still a thing that I get really frustrated at. But you're actually starting to see, they're actually getting some pressure up front. They're actually changing the line of scrimmage. You're seeing that as well. You're seeing the corners play a little bit better. The safeties are being right where they are. They're fitting runs a lot better, which has been really good. I think that they only gave up 2 big explosive runs in the game, if I remember correctly. That running back for Duke, I mean, that was their whole offense.
Yeah.
And it was like there was two runs there. I'm pretty sure there were 2 explosive runs they gave there, but most of that they've been seeing as well. And then of course special teams. I mean, shoot, they're blocking punts. They had a punt block. They had a field goal block. Obviously the touchdown, the kick return. And so I think those are some positives that you're seeing in what the team is doing. And so, we got to give kudos where we can see growth, and hopefully they can, expand on that this week.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, this defense will keep you in games. It's just you got to find something on offense because and special teams isn't bad either. I mean, again, you got a great field goal kicker. Again, I think the missed one was on the holder. It was on the holder more than anything. So you got you blocking kicks left and right. Like that's what you do at Florida State. It's just the offense is so terrible. If this offense could average 24 points a game, you're not 1-6. You just can't. You just cannot score. And so. Yeah, I mean, and I definitely think, with what you said, like with Luke, and I do think you want to give Brock another opportunity. You want to see what he can do the rest of the year because you want to see that. But man, I won't say their name, but I did see where someone had commented, because I didn't hear it myself, that someone from another outlet thought that the quarterback of the future was not on this roster, and that included Luke. And I was like, what?
What game were you watching?
Exactly. And, maybe it was from someone who is named after something we do in the stands, but I won't, we'll leave it at that. But I was like, wait a minute, that's crazy, man. If when I saw the first throw by Luke, I was like, this dude is going to be legit. He is
Yeah.
a true freshman. First play makes an NFL throw like that, stepping up in the pocket to avoid pressure. I think he is the quarterback of the
Yeah.
future. You just got to get some dudes around to help him
Yep.
because
Yeah.
everything around him is freaking terrible. So yeah, man. I mean, I really firmly believe that if you need to get Luke some more snaps. I know you got to be careful with the red shirt because now that he's already
Yeah.
played one game, you get 4. But man, I think really he needs to get probably, depending on how things go. Goodness gracious, please do not
Oof.
be in a game with Charleston Southern. I think he needs to get a lot of time in that Charleston Southern
Right.
game, if
Yep.
not play the whole thing.
That's right.
Because I want to see how he develops. Because what you saw early was really nice.
Yep.
So let's actually talk about just a couple of thoughts on some big picture things here after that game, some of the comments and things like that, and then we'll get into this Miami game. Again, man, this goes back to what we're talking about, how this team is so terrible. Like, you have the most drops in the country, of any team in FBS. That is terrible. You sent me this the other day. You literally have more turnovers than touchdowns. It's unreal how bad this team is, man. That's the bad news bears of college football. You are the first team in FBS to have 3 turnovers on 3 consecutive plays. Like I just talked about,
Ridiculous.
you're the only team in the FBS that has not scored over 21 points this year. And then I did see something that David Hale of ESPN put out, and he did kind of justify a lot of the things with the turnovers this year and how like Florida State is really unlucky
Yeah.
with a lot of the turnovers and how like they should be. Turnovers are very much luck. Depends on how the ball
Yeah.
bounces,
Right.
whatever. And we've been really unlucky. So like we suck, and the football gods also hate us too.
Yep.
So that works out that way. But man, this is what's so crazy. So I also saw he put out a stat that said points off turnovers differential. The number 1 team in the country is Navy. They are plus 66 points on turnovers. Florida State is second to last in the country at 133rd. We are minus 62 points on turnovers.
Gosh.
Turnovers are absolutely killing this team. And that's the thing, too, that I will say, I think we're like negative, we're like minus 13 in turnover margin. That is one thing that is important to keep in mind here. And this is something, we're minus 10 in turnover margin. This is something I will say when you look at going forward, because it's probably only going to get worse this year, that Phil Steele in his magazine talks about the turnover margin and how wild swings in turnover margins, like I think USC or someone last year, like plus 20 in turnover margin, something like that. That typically doesn't happen 2 years in a row. That typically never repeats itself because it is so luck based. So hopefully next year it's not this bad because minus 10 in turnover margin is horrendous. So the turnovers are absolutely killing you on top of this offense because it's putting your defense in tough places. But I think what's really disappointing and the things that I really the point that I wanted to make here when we talk about this is just some of the things on the coaching here. And like, I still believe Mike Norvell is a good coach. I think there's something fundamentally wrong with what's going on. I think he's been affected by, everything that happened last year. We've had that conversation 100 times. That's not what I'm trying to have right now. I still think he's a good coach. I still think he can fix things if he makes wholesale changes to the staff and brings in some guys. They recruit better. They go about a different process here. But I think Mike has to do some soul searching too, because you cannot be making comments in year 5 saying that I believe these guys can do it. Mike, we are 1 and mother flipping 6. These guys can't do it. They can't do it. The guys last year could do it. Maybe some of these guys with those guys last year could do it.
Could do it.
These guys ain't it. They can't do it, man. So stop that. Stop with the I want guys who want to be part of the solution. It's Mike. It's year 5. The solution was year 1 and year 2.
Correct.
Where you sucked and you took over a dumpster fire.
Correct.
You lit the dumpster on fire this year.
Preach.
You don't need guys that want to be part of the solutions. It's year 5. And I do want to say too that like, because right now I don't know who else you're going to get that's better than Mike Norvell, because you're going to have to pay a boatload of money to even do it. So I think you give him the opportunity, but there is also that notion where it's like, and I understand this, the coaches are not the ones out there dropping passes. They're not missing blocks. They're not missing tackles. And I understand that. They're not coaching those guys to do that either. I understand that too. But at the end of the day, in most cases, because not all, They recruited these players.
Yes,
These are
they
the
did.
guys that you chose to be a part of this program. They
Yep.
developed these players. These
Yes,
are a
they did.
product of your coaching. It is on this coaching staff to bench the players who can't get the job done.
Correct.
It's on Mike Norvell at the end of the day. It's all on his shoulders to make sure you have the guys who can recruit, who can develop, who can make
Correct.
those decisions. People will say, like, when you talk about the wide receivers, and look, I played in the line in the trenches in high school. I didn't play wide receiver. And so I don't know why people get the yips. But a lot of people say that these wide receivers, it's a mental thing. Like, but man, go get a sports psychologist or something. Go get
Yep.
someone to come in and talk to them. This is your job to fix this, and you have done nothing to make it better. I'm just like, I'm almost to the point where I'm done defending Mike Norvell because this is an absolute disgrace. I still think he's a good coach. Man, it's so bad that I don't know if he's ever going to be able to recover from this. I want to believe he can fix it. Let me rephrase that. But man, it's just this is such an abysmal year that it's hard to see a path out of this without a complete overhaul. Because even then, man, and I'll throw it back to you on this. Like in some of his post practice press conference today, some of his comments that he said, talking about seeing the young receivers, and they were really talking about Elijah Moore, and they were saying how he made the comment that hopefully they can get on the field.
Hopefully,
Bro, you're the head coach.
hopefully,
You make the decision. Like, put them on the field. The thing is, like, the older guys are terrible. It is what it is, man. We watch the games every week. How many times do you have to watch Kentron Portier drop a pass? How many times you got to watch Morlock drop a pass and Darian Williamson drop a pass before you get I think you sent me the snap count. What was it? Elijah Moore played 1 snap.
one,
LaWayne McCoy played 5 snaps.
5.
You're not even playing these guys in the game. You're not even giving them an opportunity to show. Look at Landon Thomas. You put him in the game, he's an instant impact player. But you won't give these guys an opportunity. You keep rolling out these trash veteran receivers, and they keep doing the same thing that they've been doing all year long. You can't trust them. You can't trust them, but you keep making a decision to put them back out there. That's on you. That's on coaching.
That's on you.
I get it. They're not dropping passes. They're not missing blocks and all that, but they are ultimately responsible for getting the best out of these players and putting the best players on the field. And right now, I don't feel like they're doing it.
No, development is on the coach. Who plays is on the coach. Snap count is on the coach. Who sits on the bench is on the coach. Yes, you're not out there catching balls. You're not out there blocking. You're not out there running. You're not out there tackling. You're not out there covering. You're not doing any of those things. So you're right. There is a lot of this that goes on the players because we believe that Mike Norvell and this coaching staff, they aren't coaching it. But they say in the coaching community, you know this, Jesse, you play football, I play football, right? If you ain't coaching it, then you're allowing it.
Yep.
Something is happening. You're allowing it by allowing these kids to keep going out on the field. You keep starting Maurice Smith, who has regressed as an offensive lineman. Why is he still in the game? Why are you still playing him? Why is Portier still running routes for you? Why is any of those receivers still running routes for you that are dropping the balls, right? Why is such offensive linemen still blocking? Because you are allowing it. That is on you.
Yep.
If you want them to stop doing it, stop playing them. This is indicative of you as a coach. And so when you look at this big picture, you have to say, like, okay, this is not working. I thought you made a key point. We are in year 5, Mike. Year 5. So you talking about the response and you talking about people want to be a part of the solution and you talk about, I believe that they can do this. No, bro, this is year 5. That stuff was year 1, year 2, and a little bit of year 3. No. We're year 5. Now, because you went 19-0 and 23-2, we give you some grace. You get a year, maybe even 2 to fix this, but you got to fix it. In 2020, Jesse, Michigan they won 2 games. I sent this tweet to you. They won 2 games and Jim Harbaugh fired 60% of his staff, 60% of his staff, and took 2 other staff members and put them in non-coaching roles, right? And then you know what they did after that? They went 12-2 the next year. They went 13-1, and they went 15-0 and won a national championship. And then he bolted because his star player, Connor Stalions, left.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Right. But still, I mean, that's the point. I mean, look at Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. Went 4-8, I believe, one year. Fired almost all his staff.
Yeah.
and then came back and went to the national championship in 2 seasons. So like, Mike, there is no more. I believe they can do it. No, 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 no. You got to be saying I need to be hearing every practice report. Yeah, this team sucks. They're not going to be able to do it. You guys wait till the summer. You guys wait till December when we fire all these coaches. That's what I want to hear. Wait till
Right.
December till we fire all these people. We go get some better players because we're going to recruit, because I'm going to fix this problem, because it's never going to be like this again. We're never going to find Florida State. Florida State's a blue blood program. They should never have to be thinking about a potential 1-11, 2-10 season. I'm so sorry I put this trash out here. Like,
Right.
that's what I want to hear. I don't need to
Right.
hear all your climb speeches and anything like that.
Give me a Brian Kelly postgame show where you almost get canceled for like saying you're going to put the firing squad on your players or whatever it is. But, I don't know, man. Maybe you can't climb unless you fell first. So, like, maybe he
That's
wasn't
true.
comfortable at the top. He can't climb if he doesn't start from the bottom. I don't know. But it's right. It's the truth, man. And like, if you can't find guys to replace them in year 5, that's because you didn't recruit well enough. And so
Correct.
that's also on you. And so, man, I agree. I think you got to clean house. I think he needs to bring in a dedicated offensive coordinator. I think really now I will say this. I don't think there's really a whole lot of point in firing midseason, because it's not really going to help the fact, unless maybe you can like do it early for recruiting to let people know this is not going to be your coach. We're going to go out and find them. You can get an early start on that. At this point, I almost hope we don't make a bowl, because then you can get started on these processes
Yes.
earlier. You can get in the portal, you can get recruited, you can do all that stuff earlier. Like, screw it. Let's just get out there and start doing this stuff. The hell with a bowl. No one cares about a bowl anyway. Half the players aren't going to play in it to begin with. So let's get an early start on that. But you got to take the onus, man. I think he needs to get a dedicated OC so Mike can step back into that CEO role like he was doing when Kenny Dillingham was here.
Right.
You can still be involved in the offense, but you can't. I think his focus is too honed on this offense, because Alex Atkins is not a play caller, maybe more involved in the game plan. I think he needs to be that CEO type of coach where you can kind of keep your eye on everything. But yeah, I think you got to clean house, and you got to get guys who can recruit better. We were talking about this before the show. The reason Georgia is good, the reason Alabama is good, the reason when Clemson has a terrible season and it's a 10-win season and they make the ACC championship is because they've recruited so well. This is not like we're going to have this conversation on another show. We don't have the time today, but like there's been rumors about Deion coming back and all that stuff. I'm not saying we want Deion, but what I'm saying is, like, if you were to kick the tires on a guy like Jimbo or whatnot a second time around, it's because he can recruit. Like, you can stack a roster with enough talent that I could probably coach him to 10 wins. I believe Mike is a good coach, because the thing is, like, you saw what he could do with talent. They went 23-4 over 2 years. You missed on some evaluations. That's on you. You didn't recruit well enough. That's on you.
That's on you.
You're putting the same crap product on the field every single week.
You.
That's on you. And so there's a lot of onus that has to go to the coaching staff, but it is a big execution problem. It is a lot on these players too.
Yeah, absolutely. And how, Mike, this is what you've done to us. We are now calling the jilted girlfriend that left us, Jimbo Fisher, to try to come back. Look what you've done to us, Mike. Like, this is ridiculous. But what I was going to say is, it's insane. It's crazy that we are at this spot in this place where we're looking at the program and we're like, what has happened to this thing? You have got to get out of the weeds of just the offense and get to that CEO level where you can look at the entire program. I mean, there's been like rumors going around that Mike has been doing so much of everything because he knows he has a dead weight staff. He knows that, but he's been so enamored with this idea of consistency of the coaching staff and stability. And I get it. Like, players like that. They like to know who they're going to be coached, like to know there's longevity. But man, the product has not been good. You have not recruited well. It's slipping. Your message is slipping. Man, we have the worst injury luck in Florida State history under your regime. The worst.
I know.
Something is not right, man. Come on. Like you have got to, you've got to go get an offensive coordinator. I don't care if you call plays, but you gotta get somebody who can call plays that you can give that up to, so that you can spend more time making sure the overall program. You got to look at how you're evaluating play. Who are your evaluators? Are you evaluating? Do you have other eyes that are helping you evaluate? Your recruiters, man, you can't be the main recruiter for every single player. You've got to go and trust that you got a coaching staff that can go get some, that can go get them. Go get those kids. I don't care how much bag they got. They got to build those relationships. we are assuming that, oh, you just pay the most money and those kids are going to come. Jeremiah Smith took less money to go to Ohio State. The other guy, there were a couple other players that were Florida State, the offensive lineman at Indiana, who wanted to come here, and now he's basically going to be an All-American this year. He wanted to come to Florida State, but the relationships were just messed up and screwed up. Took less money. That's a problem, man.
Right. You can't recruit this bad in the state of Florida, in a talent-rich state, when you went 23-4 the last 2 years and you can't land a top 10 class. It's just it's unacceptable. It is unacceptable. And like, for the people who, and I know most of you guys are probably raging with us, and I'm gonna have to bring my blood pressure down here in a minute. So we're gonna have to move on to the Miami game, which is not gonna do that. But you guys see how fired up we get about it, because the thing is, at the end of the day, this is Florida State. Okay.
Thank you.
Don't put the kid gloves on for this bull jockey. Right? We're a family-friendly show, so I'm keep clean. This is Florida State. There's a standard, right? This is the worst we've been in 50 freaking years. This is Florida State. You do not come in here and go 1-6. You do not lose. Mike lost to the FCS team for the first time. You lost to Duke for the first time. You've had the first 0-5 or whatever 1-6 start since football was invented. Like, you've had more losing seasons than this program has had in the last 50 years. There's a standard here at Florida State, and this is not meeting that standard. And so you cannot accept this at a place like this, or you're going to be Nebraska.
Correct.
And that's why you have to, the saying goes, now Mike gets credit because he rebuilt us out of a dumpster fire. I will give him that. So that's why I think he gets a chance to fix this. But again, it's that saying, you either got to poo or get off the pot.
Right.
And I think, really, like we said, man, I think he gets 2 years. But if it looks like this next year, if he starts 1-5, 1-6, I think he's gone. And I think you have to cut bait and move on. And it's going to be a tough situation to go hire a staff around this, knowing that that's probably the case. But man, I think you got to, because again, the standard is the standard, and you cannot wander. You do not want to wander in the wilderness like Miami did for 20 years. You do not want to be Nebraska, where you're chasing what was in the 90s.
Right.
You
Absolutely
cannot do that, or you might not recover from this.
That's right.
And you're too prominent of a program in too talent rich of a state to put this crap on the field week after week.
That's right. Absolutely. This is Florida State. I mean, you ask anybody, you ask all the history people, the people, your granddaddy's college football. Florida State is a blue blood of college football. Yes, we have the shortest history of the blue bloods, but we've done more than the other blue bloods in our short history. We are a blue blood college football tradition, one of the best in the most talent-rich state in the country. You got to be able to recruit this state. You've got to be able to recruit Georgia. You've got to be able to recruit the DMV. You got to be able to recruit the best of Texas. Shoot, this is a national brand. I mean, Mike Norvell said it when he got here. This is an iconic brand, and it ain't gonna change. We are 1-6, and we still get primetime slots on TV. That's how good we are. I hate it. Thank you, Miami. I hate it.
You're welcome. We got you your first primetime game.
Exactly. I hate it because everybody in the world gets to watch. We get beat, but we still draw eyes to the TV no matter how terrible we are. We will never be a fan base that accepts mediocrity. We're not Miami. We're not okay with going 20 years between winning a national championship or doing anything of winning a conference title. We're not them. We're never going to be them. And this is unacceptable. So yeah, Mike gets 2 years, but next year better show some improvement or he won't get 2 years. I don't care what we got to pay. Fire him and go get somebody else, because this is Florida State. We don't do this.
Yeah, got to make a bowl next year, or I think you're probably out of here. But with that being said, woosah. We got fired up for that one. But I think it's deserved, and I think that's about where everybody feels right now, to be honest, as far as the fans go. But now let's talk about this Miami game. Another thing that's going to end up leaving us pissed off on Saturday. Maybe you found a hobby by now. Maybe you quit watching, Florida State. I know a lot of people said they're not even going to watch the game. Like, I'm more excited, Mike. I told you a couple weeks ago I got a new smoker, right? And so I'm doing my first brisket on Saturday. Ooh. So Florida State will not be the only thing to get smoked on Saturday. I will be smoking a brisket too, so I'm excited about that, but I'm still going to watch the game so we can talk about it with you guys. So let's get into this. Florida State versus Miami down in Doak South. We got a 3-game win streak going right now. probably going to end here. But, Mike Norvell has found ways. He still
That's
technically
true.
never lost to Miami because he wasn't able to coach in the very first game there. But, man, this one looks different than it has in a while. Miami
Yeah.
comes into this game as a 21-point
Yeesh.
favorite, 3-touchdown favorite. Man, that's a hard pill to swallow, man. Over under is 54.5. Obviously, Florida State's not contributing much to that, not more than 20 points. Um, when you look at the spread there, that indicates around a 38-17 type of game. I've seen 2 computer model scores so far that also predicted 38-17. So there's a really strong belief that a game's going to end up about that way. Unfortunately, the win probabilities that I've seen are all over
Oof.
90% for Miami.
Yeah.
There is no one giving us a chance. And to touch on some news, there are rumors. This has not been confirmed yet, but there are rumors that we will be without Cam Davis and Darius Washington in this game. I mean, Darius has been hit or miss anyway. Cam is,
Yeah.
you're probably going to miss Cam a little bit there. But I think you got some other guys that can get an opportunity, like a Mekhi Danzy,
Yeah.
like Sam Singleton, who
Singleton.
is
Yeah.
a guy that we could see there at running back, get some more reps and step into that role there. So that's just some things to keep in mind there. One interesting thing about this game, Miami is wearing black uniforms for this. And,
Dun, dun,
they are
dun.
either dressing for a funeral that they're about to attend. That would be our funeral in case you weren't
Yeah.
keeping up. But Michael, more often than not, black uniforms are a curse, man.
That's
A
right.
lot of times black uniforms do not work out well. The last time Miami wore their Miami Knights uniforms or whatever it was, the black uniforms last year, was when they got so excited about wearing black uniforms they forgot to take a knee to win the game against Georgia Tech. Uh,
That's right.
the last time they wore alternates against us, they lost down in Miami in
That's
2014.
right.
So, I'm not going to sit here. It's an orange out in the crowd, but I'm not going to sit here and say that uniforms are going to make a difference in this game. But there's a reason we don't have black uniforms this year. Those things
Exactly.
typically work against you. And I will say for this game, man, that I'm not going to pick us to win, obviously, but I do suspect that the guys will be motivated for this game. I mean, it's Miami. It's a rivalry game. It's a big game. You have a lot of these kids that are from South Florida. I
Yeah.
think that they are going to be up for this game. Outside of that SMU game, we saw them quit in that game. I think a lot of that, maybe had to do with the DJU quarterback situation and
Yeah.
things like that. This team has not really quit in a game yet. I mean, we've seen some loafing, but we
Yeah.
haven't seen them full on quit other than
Right.
in that SMU game.
Right.
And for what it's worth, that's the only game they've been blown out in yet.
Yeah.
And even then it was close at halftime. They've kept every game pretty close. So I do think they're going to be motivated in this game. And like we touched on earlier, man, if we lose this game in a big fashion, this isn't the end of the program. We're 1 and
No.
friggin' 6, man. It's
Yeah.
not going to make a big difference. We lost 52-10 in Doak, in 2020, and
That's
we
right.
went on to win an ACC championship. We beat Miami by 42 down there 2 years ago in their own place. And look, they're doing fine now too. So like this notion that Miami fans, because I know y'all are watching, and I know you're going to be in the comments, man, if you win by 4 or 40 on Saturday, it's not the end of this program. So like that notion is crazy. But I do think this team is going to be up. I do think they're going to be hyped up for the rivalry game. I just don't think it's going to go well. But I do
Right.
think they're going to play hard, and I do think they're going to be up for this game.
Yeah. I mean, if I could give you a little bit of like, not hope to win. Make sure you hear me say that. Not hope to win. But if I can give you a little bit of hope of like not getting so blown out, since 2000, there have only been 4 blowouts in this rivalry. 4.
Yeah.
Everything else has been within a score. Okay. FSU owns 3 of the 4 blowouts. Like we've blown Miami out 3 of the 4 times. Miami only blew us out, as Jesse already mentioned, in 2020. It was like 52-10. We've blown Miami out more times than they've blown us out since 2000. The FSU is 13-12 in the last and since 2000 as well in this rivalry. The thing is, what I keep thinking most about, Jesse, in this game with this version of Miami and this version of FSU is, if you look at the schedule, and I know we're going to get to that in a moment, but if you look at the schedule, Miami's not played anybody of significance. And yes, Florida has gotten better defensively, but at the time when Miami played Florida, they were a terrible defense. This will be the best defense Miami has seen all season long. Okay. So I that gives me a sliver of like, okay, maybe it's not going to be a blowout too. Also, when we look at the last 3 games of this Miami team, they have looked suspect. And if it
Yeah.
wasn't for the All Canes conference officials bailing them out 3 consecutive weeks,
Yeah.
they would be 4-3 right now.
Yeah.
So, if anything, I'm not saying that's a hope for win. That's just a little sliver of hope that this might be closer than the experts think.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, like I do want to say that like look, I'm not blind. I give
Yeah,
them credit. Like they
yeah,
look really good this year. I was wrong about Cam Ward. I
that's
did
right.
not think he was going to be what he is. He's probably the best quarterback in the country right now. This is the best one of the best offenses in the country right now. Their defense is a little bit suspect, but it's a really good team, man. And
Yeah,
for as much as I really hate Miami, like I've interviewed Mario Cristobal 2 years in a row at ACC Media Days. He's actually a really really nice guy, and he's a
yeah,
great interview. I still want him to lose, but I do sometimes wonder if this team is kind of like Florida State 2023, right?
mm,
You're built off you got a transfer quarterback. Now I know theirs came in hot versus you developed Jordan Travis over those years, but it is funny how a lot of the Miami fans really gave us trash about having, a very transfer heavy team. But man, I mean, their best quarterback or their quarterback's a transfer. Their running back one is a transfer. One of their wide receivers is a transfer. Their offensive line, half their defense are transfers. Like this is a
yep,
very transfer heavy team. As I was looking through the numbers, I think like something like 11 to 22 of their starters are
yep,
transfers from at
yep,
some point in time. And then you also look at like likely to leave as just seniors. This isn't even counting people leaving early. Their quarterback's gone. Three of their four top wide receivers are probably gone. One of their offensive linemen is gone. Safety, linebacker, DN, D tackle, cornerback. The ones that I looked at that were all seniors or fifth year seniors are probably all going to leave. Now, the difference is they have recruited really well, and four of
right.
their offensive linemen are likely going to come back unless one of them, I think only one of them can maybe leave early. So they'll have those things too. But you almost wonder if this is a little bit of a flash in the pan season. I think there is that to a degree because let's be honest, man. Like you said, first off, if it wasn't for the ACC refs, I would say probably 5-2. The Louisville game, like I think they definitely got bailed out in that game by the forward pass, but I could see where it was a forward pass. I still think it was
I mean, yeah. Mm.
maybe a bad call, but the targeting was for sure there, and the
Oh,
and the Hail Mary should have never been overturned. But I still think they're probably 5-2, and without Cam Ward, they're nowhere near 7-0. Nowhere near seven
correct.
and 0. And the thing is, here's the other thing too that's interesting about Miami is like they better hope they don't have a Jordan Travis moment because
Oof,
they literally leave Cam Ward in for 90% of the game because they don't have anyone else at quarterback. They got Puffenberger, and then the other guy, I
the
forget his name.
transfer. Yeah,
Um, but like they don't really have a whole lot of backup there at quarterback that they're not even really trying to develop them. Like you're up 60 points against Ball State, and Cam Ward's still in the game. Like it's crazy that they do that. So they better hope he stays healthy. But yeah, man, I do think this is a good team. They've recruited better, so they probably won't have a 1-6 year like we had.
right.
But I do wonder if it's a little bit of a flash in the pan. I do think that yes, they're 7-0. A lot of that is thanks to a very soft schedule. I mean, again,
Very.
you played Florida. Florida's gotten better. I don't think Florida's great, but Florida's
Right.
gotten better. FAMU, Ball State, both, FCS, Ball State's one of the worst teams in the country. Well, so are we. And then you look suspect. And then South Florida, who's, they play some teams tough, but then they usually end up getting blown out. So we'll see how it looks next year after they lose all this. So they better hope they capitalize it. Like unfortunately we weren't
Right.
able to if we'd had a 12-team playoff. You never know. You also got a little bit tougher schedule next year, which is going to be interesting to see. They got Notre
That's right.
Dame, Louisville, Florida. They go to SMU, to Virginia Tech, to Florida State. There's no FCS teams on the schedule next year and
Right.
only one G5 team, USF. So it'll be interesting to see. I've always said this, man, and this Clemson's a great example too. It's easy to get to the top. It's
Yeah.
hard to stay
Stay.
there. So
Yep.
we'll see. But they have recruited well. But yeah, man, I think it is similar, kind of a similar run to that 2023 FSU, where it's like you better win a lot this year, or at least carry that momentum going forward, because I
Right.
don't know that they're going to be able to repeat this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and man, I mean, they got built out. They got bailed out by the scheduling. Whoever does this, I feel like Mario slipped the schedule a 20 at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
20,000.
yeah,
Yeah,
because I mean, Florida, okay, Florida A&M, Ball State, South Florida, Virginia Tech, California, Louisville, Florida State. We're terrible this year. Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Syracuse. They avoid any of the
right,
significant ACC powers outside of us, and we're not a power this year, right?
right. They're
They don't
probably
play
going to go
Clemson.
undefeated with that schedule.
Exactly. Exactly. And so, yeah, you better win because next year, I'm not like you said, I don't think they'll be 1-6 like us, but they're not going to be as dynamic as they hope. They're probably going to either have to use a very young quarterback or go in the portal again to grab a quarterback. They're going to have to replace some of their starters. The outside of that, as you said, is that though Mario has recruited better, this is what gives me the most frustration about what Florida State's going through right now, is that while we were winning 19-0 and 23-4 in the last 2 years, we never could capitalize it on the recruiting trail. You talked
Yep.
about this earlier. We never could. While Miami wasn't taking knees and giving games over to Georgia Tech and fighting with the fans in the crowd and still recruiting the heck out of the state. Like, this is a problem here. Why are we
Yeah.
losing to this program? Why are we losing the recruiting battle to this program? We just took the state over and now we're about to give it right back to them. This is what is super frustrating about this. But they've recruited well. They play well. I mean, Cam Ward is a Heisman contender. Absolutely. He is what makes this offense go. He is what makes this team go, honestly. Again, yes, that forward pass was suspect, but still, if that call goes the other way, they probably lose the game.
And when they called it, you already knew which way it was
You
going to
already
go.
knew what was going to happen. You already knew. Virginia Tech, yes, it should have never been called a touchdown in the first place. But once it was,
Yeah.
it wasn't even the fact that there was not indisputable evidence. There was no evidence to overturn the play, and it got overturned. The Cal
Yeah.
game, I mean, absolute. That was a targeting of all targets. You call that play, game's over.
Yep.
And so they're doing really good. So I'm gonna give credit where credit's due. They have found ways where Florida State has invented ways to lose games.
Yeah.
Miami has found ways to keep winning. That's a true marker of a team, that no matter how the obstacles get stacked, you are finding ways to win the game this year. Like you said, they're probably going to go undefeated. They'll be in the ACC championship. Be interesting to see, because I'm assuming Clemson's going to be in the ACC championship. So it'll be interesting to see how they fare up against an actually decent team. But credit to where credit's due.
Yeah, you're probably looking at Clemson or SMU in that matchup there. And the other thing too is Miami has vastly out recruited us in the trenches.
Yes.
And I think that's really the difference. I mean, their offensive line is pretty darn good, and it's all young guys, and other than the center, which is kind of tough to see. But so let's talk about this Miami team a little bit here as we talk about this game on Saturday and how Florida State, how it can match up and what we can do in this game. And I do think when you talk about Miami, that 7-0 record, I think you have to kind of cut it almost in half here. And you got to talk about two separate segments here.
Yeah.
The first 4 games versus the last 3 games, because like we just talked about, they played basically, they got fat off some cupcakes, as I've said, basically every week in the first 4 games. And I know they went and beat Florida. They blew them out in the swamp. That was a great win for them. Florida looked terrible in that game. They've definitely gotten better. Not to give Florida any credit, because screw them guys too.
Yeah.
But in the first 4 games, Miami is plus 42 points per game. They've outgained teams by an average of 372 yards a game.
Jeez.
In the last 3 games, they are averaging a margin of victory by plus 4 points a game, down from 42 points a game, and only outgaining teams by an average of 137 yards per game. So once they started playing some teams with a pulse, things got a little bit tougher. And to be fair, outside of Louisville, I mean, we beat Cal, for the love of goodness. They lost to NC State too. They lost to the 2 worst teams in the ACC. I mean, what the heck? And they were down, they were up 35-10 at one point. That's insane. You look at Virginia Tech. They trailed Virginia Tech by 10 points in the fourth quarter. Like we already talked about, the refs kind of bailed them out there. They trailed Cal 35-10 in the middle of the third. Got bailed out again there. Now, granted, you came back from 35-10. You won the game. You get full-on credit for that. Maybe Cal doesn't melt down, and it doesn't come down to the refs. Louisville did trail most of that game, but now Miami created the fumble, so I can't take this away from them.
Correct.
But Louisville did fumble the ball in the end zone right before halftime that Miami recovered. Then they went down and missed a field goal, and then they had, obviously, the forward pass controversial call. But, you don't fumble the ball in the end zone and you go down and put some points on the board there, they might lose that game. So they very well could be 4-3, 5-2 if they don't get bailed out on some questionable calls here. But they didn't. And that's the problem. Like you said, man, I don't know that Florida State's good enough to beat them, because we find ways to lose and they find ways to win. But you already know in this game, and this is, maybe throwing a little bit of shade, because again, like we said, we're going to talk some smack. It's 2 versus 1 on Saturday. You're going to have to go down there and beat Miami, and you're going to have to go down there and beat the ACC too.
Yep.
because they're going to try and protect their playoff contender.
Yep.
And Florida State is certainly not a playoff contender this year. I don't know, Michael. Can they leave us out? I mean, I feel like it's a travesty if we go down there and upset Miami, which probably ain't gonna happen.
Exactly.
But so let's start by talking about the Miami defense here, because this is the one chance I think, and we're not gonna like, man, every week I dig up some stats and I'm like, oh man, if we do this, that, and the other, and Florida State goes and pees its pants and doesn't do anything, and the stats don't matter. But I got a couple things here. We just want to talk about both sides and kind of how Florida State can get, maybe sneak up on Miami, maybe keep it respectable if even pull an upset. Look, again, I ain't betting a penny that we're going to get the upset, but it's a rivalry game, man. You
That's right.
never, you literally never know. Right? Crazy things happen in rivalry games. We've already seen a lot of crazy upsets this year. I don't think
Yep.
anybody would have put a penny for Vanderbilt to put
Nope.
whooping on Alabama. But so you look at this defense, and this is your opportunity here. Now, we know Florida State is going to do its best not to score 20 points in this game, but they dang sure got the opportunity to, because this Miami defense has allowed 39 points per game in the last 3 games. 41 if you don't take away the Virginia Tech overturned Hail Mary. It would be 41 points a game. Now, I do believe, I think it was Louisville had a kickoff return touchdown. I think there may be some special teams touchdowns, but they're still giving up probably around 35 points a game if you adjust for some of those. They've given up over 400 yards per game in the last 3 games. They've only had 4 sacks in the last 3 games. They're allowing 33.5 points per game versus Power 4 teams. And I've even seen a lot of Miami fans like, oh, Florida State can't score 20 points. We'll probably give up 30 to them. They even know their own defense is not that great, but they just know they got a good enough offense to do that. Again, they gave up 38 points to Cal, who Florida State held to 9 points in that game the week before they played Miami. The week after that, they went and scored 15 points, I think, against Pitt. So again, it's not a great defense by any means. Now, they got some playmakers on the defensive line, but it's not a great defense. The secondary is kind of where you kind of got an opportunity here. They gave up 303 pass yards against USF, 297 against Cal, 342 against Louisville. It's not a bad run defense, but Virginia Tech did put up over 200 yards rushing on them. The rest of the teams, they held pretty low. Virginia Tech is very much a run-first team. Now, they are good at third down defense. They are 12th in the country. They're 29.9% conversions allowed, tied for 60th in red zone scoring, allowing 82.4% of trips to score. Only 9 touchdowns, which is tied for 19th in the country for fewest touchdowns given up. They are tied for 70th in explosive plays allowed, too. Now, so they're giving up some explosives. So, to me, Florida State has an opportunity to score some points here if you just quit shooting yourself in the foot. If you catch the freaking ball, if you block some of these guys, if you don't turn the ball over on 3 straight possessions, 3 straight plays, like you have an opportunity to score on this team. Like this is an opportunity for you to put up over 20 points. But can you do it? Because this defense is good in some areas. They're good at creating sacks. Again, like I said, they've only had 4 in the last 3 games because they racked up some against a bunch of bad teams. But man, I mean, you got a defense that's allowing 33.5 points per game against Power 4 teams. Florida State can't seem to crack that 20-point barrier, but this would be a great week to do it if they could. And again, we know Florida State can't run the ball well. This Miami defense is not a great rushing defense, but you feel like if we can catch the ball, our strength is passing. So you like that matchup there. But can Florida State go out and execute? I think this is, from the offense to the defense, this is one of those weeks where, like, the opportunity's there. You just can't beat yourself.
That's right. That's right. Well, absolutely. I mean, the opportunity is there for Florida State to score. The question is,
you aren't going to win with 20 points, though.
You're not going to win. You put money down right now. If Florida State doesn't score more than 16 points, they will lose the game.
If they score more than 20, they're going to lose. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Because, well, I mean, but the point is, we haven't scored over 16 points since the Georgia Tech game. That's why I can't even say 20, because we haven't scored more than 16 points. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And so if they cannot get over that hump, they're going to lose the game. It's guaranteed. And now you're getting ready to face a defense that's given up, at least if you account for the special team stuff, at least 35 points a game. They can't stop air from moving through the air. Like, that's the problem. They can't do that. They might be stopping the run, but the passing defense is terrible. And if
Yeah.
your wide receivers, like you said, can just catch the dadgum ball, and you're if here I'll say this: if Florida State can have a semblance of the running game like we saw on Duke,
Yeah.
where they finally got it going, they finally got over 100 yards. It doesn't need to be spectacular. It doesn't need to be the greatest run game in the world. It just needs to be something that will bring those linebackers in, bring those safeties down. So when you run play action, you get a wide open wide receiver. Now, doesn't mean that they're going to catch it, but at
Right.
least it gives you the chance. I think about the Rams. The Rams have, since Sean McVay has been the head coach there, man, they've never had a great running game. Except when they had Todd Gurley, that was great. But once Todd Gurley left, it's never been good. And yet the Rams won a Super Bowl on a great passing offense because they could run sufficiently. They did just enough in the run game to be able to open up those passing lanes. That's what Florida State needs to try to do this weekend is, man, just get something. Be consistent. Be ahead of the chains on first down. Don't make
Yeah.
it 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 15 or the defense is running the opposite way with a pick six or fumble recovery. Like just be in just be in 2nd and 5, 2nd and 6, right? Give yourself a chance so that you can have a manageable 3rd down, right? And so be sufficient in the run game. That way we can open up the pass game. And I don't know what you do with the wide receivers. I don't know if you put sticky gloves on. I don't know if you,
Right.
you make them just as you're taking your test today, you're just catching from the jug machine. Like, I don't know. But man, if they could just catch the ball,
Yeah.
we lead the country in drop balls. It is
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous. So if they could just catch the dadgum ball, I think that would give Florida State a chance to score more than 16 points. And then
Yeah.
I'll throw this back to you. It's not just catching the ball. It's not just blocking and giving our quarterback time to find an open receiver. And it's not just being sufficient in the run game. It's also about the play calls, Mike Norvell. Get creative. Do
Yeah.
stuff that Miami hasn't seen on tape. Go against your tendencies. That's the whole thing about coming out of a bye week that made me so disappointed is that when you go into bye week, you evaluate yourself and say, okay, this is what I've been doing a lot of, a la wide receiver screens to the boundary there.
Yeah.
I need to stop doing that. I need to do something else. We did see a little bit of the middle screen game that had been gone all year, and we saw a little bit of that in the Duke game. Do more of that. Bring in some wildcat. Run a reverse here or two. We saw that on the punt, on the fake punt. Like, let's bring that into the offense. Do some different things that Miami doesn't have on tape and catch them off guard to try to jumpstart this offense.
No, I totally agree, man. That's actually not to give the sauce away, but that's one of my keys to the game is get creative. But yeah, I mean, I think now is the time. Like, if you've been saving it in your pocket because you know how big this game is, now's the time, man.
Yeah.
You're 1-6. Let it all hang out. Like, run some wildcat, run a reverse, run a flea flicker. I don't care, man. Make some stuff up. Go play NCAA 25 this week and go go see some stuff. Like, go figure something out, man. But you got to do something. You got to get creative. Again, that's one of my keys to the game is get creative on offense. Do something different because what you're doing is not working. Feed guys like Landon Thomas. Feed guys who have shown you they can catch the ball. Let some of these young guys play. Let's see what they got. It's time, man. You can't keep rolling the same guys out there dropping passes week after week after week because, again, you have an opportunity. I mean, you really, we were talking about before the show, you got Miami this week, who's giving up 30-something points a game. You got North Carolina next week, who gave up 70 points to James friggin' Madison.
Yep.
If you can't score over 20 points in these next two games, then, like, Mike Norvell, you need to fire yourself as an offensive play caller or whatever, because this is piss poor. You got two really not great defenses coming up 2 weeks in a row. So that's kind of what we're looking at on that side of the ball. And, Michael, it makes you feel good when you're like, okay, all right, maybe we got a chance. I mean, Cal, a team we held to 9 points, put up 38 on them. So you're like, okay, maybe we can not shoot ourselves in the foot enough to score 20 points, which at least makes the game respectable or gives you a chance to be in this game. That feels great, right? Well, here's the problem. Here, like I always say, man, sometimes life's looking up just so it can kick you in the nuts. Here comes that kick in the nuts. Yeah. So this is where it comes. That sounds great, but Miami against against FBS competition, you have the number 4 scoring offense in the country versus Power 4 competition.
Yeah,
Sorry, I sprung that one on you.
that was good.
Um,
That was good.
Against Power 4 competition, they're the number 4 scoring offense in the country. I think they're actually number 2 overall, but I don't like to count. Again,
Yeah,
Florida State hasn't played an FCS team. Not that we
right.
could score more than 20 on them too. But I like to do it against Power 4 teams because that's all we've played other than Memphis. Against Power 4 competition, they are scoring 42.5 points per game. Number 4 scoring offense in the country. They put up over 500 yards in every single game.
Yeesh.
Keep in
Yeah.
mind, we haven't put up over 300 yards in a game this season. They put up over
Period.
500 in every single game. They're averaging 8 yards per play. They're number 1 in third down offense, converting 62.2 or 60.2% of conversions. They're number 1 in explosive plays over 20 yards. They're tied for 29th in red zone scoring, but they're scoring on 91.7% of trips, 27 touchdowns. 27.
Jeez.
Michael, man, we ain't scored 27 touchdowns since
We got
Short Travis was
11,
quarterback.
bro. We got
Right.
11 touchdowns.
That is ridiculous. So the defense is not great. It gives you a chance, but you're running into a buzzsaw of an offense. You absolutely cannot put your defense in a bad field position. You
Nope.
cannot do it because they're going to have a hard enough time stopping them anyway. Miami is plus. Speaking of, Miami is +4 in turnover margin. You're -10.
Yep.
That is not great. So you
Nope.
cannot give them extra at bats here. Now, again, I hate to say this, but I got to give credit where it's due, man. I was wrong about Cam Ward. He had
Yeah.
a lot of turnovers. He had a lot of sacks, a lot of, whatever. We thought, we did
Yep.
say
We did. Yep.
he has a Heisman ceiling, but he has a 6 and 7 floor.
That's right.
He's been great this year. He's the number 1 graded quarterback, of course, with a snap filter applied. Number 1 graded quarterback in the country per PFF. 2,500 yards, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions on the season. He can change his arm angle. He does that sidearm stuff like
Yep.
that. He makes these ridiculous throws. Look, I gotta say this real quick. He might be the best quarterback in the country. I don't give a daggone. That is the stupidest celebration I have ever seen. I hate it. You look like a sissy girl waving your hand in front of your face. I don't like it. And he didn't come up with it either. So took it from Western Kentucky. Anyway, I had to get that off my chest. But he can extend plays with his legs because on the way back from that Duke game that I went to, regrettably, I watched them play Louisville. He can extend plays with his legs. Now, he isn't Lamar Jackson.
No.
But he can run the ball. He's very effective at picking up first downs on third down when he just extends the plays. But the thing about Cam is like when he extends plays, he's always got his eyes downfield, and that's where he catches you. Like sometimes it bites him because the receivers don't know where he's going, they don't know what he's doing. Sometimes that's when the mistakes happen, the interceptions and things like that, because it's kind of backyard football.
Right.
But like if he sees an opening, he will go pick up that first down with his legs, and he will get you. But man, the second that you get him out of the pocket and you devote resources to him, man, there's going to be some crazy freaking play with a receiver in the back corner of the end zone, and you better bet he can make that throw. Which is, man, it's just tough. So, but running on the year, 35 attempts, 190 yards, 5.43 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns. So he can run. But they are a very pass-heavy team, 61.6%, which is a surprise. I will give them that because we thought we were wondering how much Mario Cristobal was going to let him loose.
Right.
But, Shannon Dawson was an air raid coordinator, and he was an air raid quarterback. Florida State actually throws it more than that, 63.2%. They do run. They're not a fast-paced offense. They do typically huddle, but they will go up-tempo at times. They are averaging 75 snaps on the year compared to Florida State at 65. So they're going to push the pace when they got to. And just to touch on Cam real quick, the last thing is he did clean up the turnover issues to a degree. 5 interceptions, 2 fumbles so far this year. So, again, I got to give him credit that, man, he has been one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's a Heisman type of quarterback. And, man, I mean, it's going to be hard to stop this guy. He is the heart of that offense, and he does make it work, and he does make some insane plays.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking the other day, he kind of reminds me of when Miami came to 2020 when they had Derrick King. It's just kind of that quarterback that could just make magic happen. I mean, he's a la Jordan Travis, right? Jordan, there'd be times you're like, everybody's covered. And next thing you know, we got 7 on the board. How do we do that? Jordan Travis, right? Well, Cam
Yeah.
Ward's the same way. I mean, I watched a lot of that Louisville game. I watched a lot of the Cal game. I watched the South Florida stuff. I mean, he's just we'll give credit where credit's due. He is magical with the ball. I mean, hands down. It's like you and I, Jesse, when we were kids, like you said, a backyard football, just running around, waiting for our friend to get open, and we just chuck it 60 yards down, and it's a touchdown. And that's like, that's the offense. That's what Miami's doing. They're creative, like you said. Shannon Dawson comes out of the air raid, former Kentucky offensive coordinator. They West Virginia too as well. They run creative things for them. They're gonna pass way more than they're gonna run. And that offensive line is, I'm not going to say the greatest offensive line I've ever seen.
Yeah, they're pretty good, but they're not
pretty good. They're not the greatest. There was a clear cut holding where the guy basically chokehold the guy in the Louisville game, and the referee did not see it. And then Cam Ward threw an absolute dime down the sideline there for a touchdown. It was unbelievable. And so, credit where credit. He's better than what we thought coming out of Washington. He did a lot of the work. I think that work he did in the offseason where he was trying to prepare for the NFL draft, trying to get a good draft grade, helped him out coming to Miami. And so,
you hate to say it.
You hate to say it. It is.
But, we always kind of wondered, like, a lot of his struggles, he was at Washington State, and
that's right.
And that incarnate word. Like, you always wondered what he would do when he had talent around him.
Talent around him.
He's good, man.
He is. Now, what I would say for FSU's defense is the defense is playing better. This, again, will be the best defense that Miami has seen all season. Every week. They've not. In the last 3 weeks, Virginia Tech's defense is not good. South Florida's defense is not good. Cal's defense is not good. Louisville's defense is not good. This is going to be the best defense they see. Okay. That being said, the offense cannot put this defense in a bad place. Mike Norvell, hear me if you watch this, which I hope you do. Do not go for 4th downs. I don't care where we are.
Yeah.
Unless we are in Fitz's field goal range, you punt this ball, because if you don't get it, you're literally giving 7 points to Miami.
Yep.
You're literally doing that, because this defense is going to be able to hold on for only so long against that offense. So punt the ball. If your defense is playing great, then man, put your defense in great situations. Let Mastromano, your all-American punter, probably should win the whatever that punting award is, the Ray Guy award. Yeah. He should probably win it this year. He's been the MVP of this team, because he's going to pin. He's got 45 to 50-yard punts. He's got so many down in the under the 20. Man, let him be your defense and help your defense, and just play the defensive game, right? Because the worst thing you could have happen is to lose, absolutely. But even worse than that is to lose 80 to 16, because you can't score more than that, right?
Right.
You don't want that. Man, honestly, I mean, I don't want to lose in period, but I'd rather lose 28 to 16 than to lose 80 to 16, because we kept going for it on 4th down on the 49-yard on our side of the field. Like, come on, man. I know you want to be aggressive. I know that's your thing, but man, let the defense carry you. And when you get that chance, when you get a surefire, man, if we don't go for it here, this could be the game. Okay, do it.
Right.
But early in the game, don't put your defense in a bad situation.
Yeah, play to win the game, but don't be stupid about it.
Right.
I mean, at this point with this offense, punt on 1st down. It is what it is. Run 3 times and punt, whatever you got to do. And you probably fumble it, so it doesn't matter anyway. But no, I agree, man. The offensive line is good, but not great. There's got some young guys, so they're still getting better, but it's a good group. But I will say that was the next thing. I did have one note on that. They have allowed 54 pressures and 10 sacks in the last 3 games. So you can get to him. Yeah. You can, I mean, it's a tricky thing with Cam Ward, though. Like we said, he's not Lamar Jackson, but he's certainly not a statue. So really, you want to keep him in the pocket and try and sack him in the pocket if you can. What you don't want to do is let him get outside the pocket and start improvising, because that's where he becomes dangerous. But you can get pressure on him. And the thing is, like, yes, he's an accurate, good quarterback, but they also have good receivers. This is something that, we wish. But Miami's reception percentage as a team is 72.9%. Florida State's, after that abysmal showing last week against Duke, is now at 59.3%. You were already the worst in the ACC, just barely above 60%. Now you're under 60%. So you are literally like a freaking 12% less catch rate than them. They have 13 drops on the season, so they drop some passes too. You're at 21. Again, you had the most drops and probably the lowest catch percentage in the entire country. Miami at 72.9 is pretty daggone high. You just look just real quick to look at some of the receivers. Of course, everybody knows Restrepo. He's a veteran
Yep.
guy, leads the team, 39 catches, 686 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's only 5'10, 198. He's not like an incredible athlete, but he's
He's a
really good
possession
at finding
man.
space.
Yep.
He can catch the ball. He can find space. He's a very reliable target for them. But then the other thing, when you look at guys like Isaiah Horton, 6'4", 205, Sam Brown Jr., 6'2", 195, Jacoby George, 6 foot 176. They're tight end, 6'4", 245. This is a big wide receiver group. So
Yeah.
they're going to be big physical receivers. And so you're going to have to attack the ball and try and win these one-on-ones with some of your DBs here. And man, this is what hurts me when you look at, just not to get into like all the individual stats, but Florida State's passing the season, 1,422 yards, 6 touchdowns. Miami's passing the season, 2,719
Yeah.
yards, 25 touchdowns. That's flipping depressing. Now, when you look at their ground game, pretty good, not great, but a pretty
Yeah.
good rush ground game to go with it. Damian Martinez, as we know, comes in from Oregon State. Man, I really wish he would have brought DJU with him to Miami, so he could have kept him there. But he's a good back as well. 381 yards, 4.88 yards per carry, leads the team in touchdowns with 6 on the season. Now, I don't know if this is going to be permanent going forward, but the last game against Louisville, Mark Fletcher Jr. did get the start because they said that he's just been performing better than Martinez. 296 yards, 5.92 yards per carry, averaging almost 6 yards a carry, 4 touchdowns there. They also have a freshman running back, Jordan Lau, who's averaging 7.24 yards per carry. I don't know if that was in them trash games or not. But
Yeah.
again, same thing here. We know FSU struggles to run the ball. Florida State's total rush on the season, 510 yards, 4 touchdowns. Miami, 1,322 yards, 18 touchdowns on the ground. So, I mean, the thing is, the way I sum this game up, right, is your defense is good, accounting for the fact that your offense puts them in tough positions.
Right.
Your defense is good. Their defense is okay. Your offense sucks. Their offense is great. It is what it is. So that's the disconnect. Like, your defense and your special teams are good enough to keep you in this game, but your offense is bad enough to assure that it's not going to be a game. So,
Right.
man, I really think, like, as we get ready to wrap this one up, if you, like you said, if you can rely on that defense, if you can rely on that special teams, and if you can just be competent on offense, not turn the ball over, run for, like you did against Duke, 160 yards on the ground. If you can just be competent, catch the ball, don't have a
Yeah.
50% reception rate, be somewhere in mid 60s, you can make this a game. I don't think you're going to outscore Miami, but you can make this a game.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I think you can make it a game. I think if Mike can make sure that the defense is set up to play its best way, which means that they got a long field to work with. They can be a little bit more aggressive. You know, what was interesting, I thought that when you listen to Adam Fuller in Monday but Sunday kind of like catch up presser, he sounded eerily really confident. he said things like, "Oh, we're confident what we can do against Miami." I mean, it was unlike what I've heard Adam Fuller before. So I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, but it was like, "Oh, this boy acting like we about to go in there and put a whooping on him." Like, okay, like, have that attitude. That's better than the offense, which is like, I mean, we hope we can score. We hope we can catch the ball, right?
Right.
And so if you can put the defense in successful situations, then yeah, I think this could be a game going into the second half. And that's what you're really trying to get it to. I mean, honestly, you're trying to get it to the fourth quarter.
Right.
And if you can have it as a game in the fourth quarter, then all bets are off, right?
Right.
But it's like surviving that first through third quarter, and especially the middle 8, which is the most important part of all of football, is the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half. If you can survive the middle 8 and get this game into the fourth quarter, then man, this is a rivalry game. Rivalry games going into the fourth quarter, it's anybody's to win or lose. The problem is we got to put this defense in a position to help us win the game. The defense is going to be the thing that keeps this game close.
Yep.
Because this offense ain't. This offense,
No.
it's
No.
going to struggle. And so if the defense can keep us close enough and we can, I don't know, wake up on offense and get, like you said, to 20 plus points, then yeah, this is a respectable loss.
There is no respectable loss, but I get what you're
Correct.
saying. It's not a complete
Yeah.
meltdown blowout. And maybe Mike knew that this game was so important that they just game planned for this game and didn't even practice for Duke. They just didn't. They were just like, you know what, we're going all in on Miami. So let's get to our keys for this one for how Florida State. Again, we're not confident that Florida State's going to win. We're not picking them to win, but these are our keys for Florida State to have an opportunity to sneak up on Miami and at least keep it close and maybe possibly get the win. I mean, again, like crazier things have happened, man. You never know. You never know how injury luck's going to play. You never know how turnover luck's going to play and all that stuff. But the keys for me are the first off, I already mentioned it. Get creative. This is what we talked about. It's Mike. It is time, man. You know, Mike knows. Like, if nothing else, he knows how important the two games on the schedule that are more important than everything else. Every game's important. But there are two games that matter more than every other game. He knows that. He doesn't use them schools' names by name. He won't call them by name. He knows it's important. Man, empty the bag of tricks. If you have anything that you can pull out, reverses, double pass, what I don't care. You know, if Cam Davis can play, he played quarterback in high school. Give me a double pass. Do something, man. Do Wildcat. Do something. Get creative. My second key for this one is going to be slow the game down. Slow it down. If you can have any success running the ball, run it until they prove they can stop you. Slow the game down because you want to keep that offense off the field as much as possible. Obviously, one of the biggest keys for me, the third one, is going to be protect the ball. You cannot have 3 consecutive turnovers again, or this game is going to get ugly. You cannot lose the turnover battle in this game. You probably will, but it can't be by more than 1. You know, I think in that Virginia Tech game, Miami might have had 4 turnovers, and I think they had like 1 turnover in every other one of the last couple of games. So do not lose the turnover battle here. And then the last one, man, this is for the whole team. Play with some freaking passion, dude. This is Florida State, Miami. Like, throw some hands on the field before the game. Do what you got to do. You know, listen, daggone it, Florida State. Don't be flexing on nobody on the freaking sideline when you're 1-6. Don't embarrass yourself, but play with some passion, man. This is a rivalry game. If you come out and you act like it's a rivalry game and you punch them in the mouth and you play with passion, again, you never know what can happen in a rivalry game. But if you go out there and you think, oh, it's Miami, they're looking good, they're undefeated, there's no chance we can win, and you tuck your tail and you quit like you did in SMU, you're going to lose by 40 points. But if you go out there, you play smart, you protect the ball, you get creative, and you play with passion like you want to win this game. And I know these guys are going to be hyped up because a lot of those guys are from South Florida. A lot of those guys know that you know, they know guys on that team. They're going to want to win this game. And so play with some passion, and then maybe you can keep this close, and maybe you can sneak up on them and make it a game in that fourth quarter, like you said, and then you never know what'll happen.
Yeah, I think those are great keys. You know what? Here's what I'll say about my keys. First of all, like you said, I said it differently. Mike, you got to call the game of your life.
Yeah.
You got to call the game of your life, which means, man, I don't care if you line up 3 quarterbacks in the backfield and send one on a motion route because you're going to throw him the ball because he's going to throw it down the field. I don't care. I don't care if you put Alex Mastromano out at the quarterback position, like you're going to have him throw and then he goes and he kicks the ball and it does something crazy and we're able to recover it. I don't care. The annexation of Puerto Rico, call it something. I mean, everything you got to put in this game. And along with the calling of the game of his life, call the plays that puts your quarterback in the best position to throw the ball in a way that puts your wide receivers in the best position to try to catch the ball. Yeah. Whatever we got to do, okay? My second key is, man, let's put the defense in successful situations, meaning we're not turning the ball over on offense. That puts a defense in a bad situation. We're not going for it on fourth down. That puts a defense in a bad situation. We're not calling timeouts before a punt because now we don't have a timeout later that we could have used to help us get down the field to score. We are also not calling defensive calls that require us to have to communicate because now we're confused about everything, right? Let's put our defense in successful situations. And then the last thing, and I mean this with a lot of sincerity and compassion, but man, like you said, this is Florida State football. It's time for us to go to jail. Here's what I mean by that. Can we play this game borderline almost about to murder somebody? I'm not calling for anybody to get murdered. No, I don't believe in that. But can we get very close to that? Can we have a hit like against Roscoe Parrish where we almost put that dude in the grave? Like, can we go out there and get in somebody's face real quick? Can we almost start a fake fight? Like, football players, they never really want to fight. Can we go start a fake fight? Can we go stand in the middle of that U and just step on it and just get angry, make them react emotionally? Remember what Florida did to us in 2000, I think it was 21, where they came out and they got under our skin. They were all kinds of things, and we just played out of our minds and lost that game and couldn't go to a bowl game. Can we do that to Miami when we in the game? Can we hit all the way to the whistle and maybe a little bit afterwards? Like, I mean, every Cam Ward should be on the ground after every play. I don't care if he got rid of the ball an hour ago. He should be on the ground every time. Those wide receivers should feel it. Even if we lose the game, those Miami players should be in the postgame saying, yeah, we got the win, but, Jacoby's in the hospital because he got lit up 8 times, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what they should be saying. Mario Cristobal should be like, man, that Florida State team, they might be losers, but they roughed us up. I mean, I got a bruise and I didn't even play in the game.
Right.
That's what they should. It's time to go to jail or at least get close to it. This is Florida State, Miami. Let's play with some pride. Let's bring back the devastation of this game every time, the hits, the cracking of the helmets, everything. Let's show them boys why this is Doak South. Even if we don't win, remind them that we still coming.
Yeah, make it respectable, man. Go down and have some respect for yourself and be physical and play hard. I mean, that's the least you can do for yourself because Miami wants this. They're going to try and clown you because you clowned them in their own place,
right?
45-3 a couple years ago. They're going to want to run it up on you. And let me just at least say this because the notification just came across my phone. You never know, man. Any given night, 0-6 Kennesaw State, 0-6 just upset 5-0 Liberty. So a winless team just beat an undefeated team. Don't say it can't happen. That's all. Right. I'm just going to leave that with you as we get into our prediction here. But yeah, man, I expect this game to be a blowout because I've watched Florida State play 7 games now. I totally understand that. I do think if they play inspired, if the defense shows up and the offense doesn't give the ball away and they actually score a few points against a defense that loves to give up points, it might be closer than people think. I don't see FSU winning this game, but I think they can make it respectable. FSU is on a 3-game win streak, and the last time they played in Hard Rock, they embarrassed Miami 45-3. So again, like I said, Miami is going to try and embarrass you. They're going to. They are not going to let off the gas. If they can beat you 70-0, they're going to do it. Don't let them do it. That was a great pep talk, Michael. But it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything.
Look, we gave the keys. Unfortunately, the car's out of gas. So, we can turn the keys, but there ain't nothing going on there. Let me just say this. I can see a path to where if Florida State doesn't wet the bed and the defense plays well, that you can make Miami sweat. And if you can make them sweat, you never know what can happen. Because, again, look at the last 3 games. Virginia Tech is not great. They're getting better. They're not great. Louisville is good, but not great. And then Cal, you already beat Cal, and they had them down 35-10.
That's right.
Anything can happen in a rivalry game. That's all I'm saying. I would not be surprised if this game somehow ended up a 1-score game. Because this history tells us this game, no matter who's good or who's bad, typically ends up a 1-score game. And Florida State, other than that SMU game, has kept every game pretty close.
Correct.
With that being said, I do think you play a little better this week because it's a rivalry game, but I just think that offense of Miami's is too much. Blech. I hate
It's
picking.
terrible.
I don't even want to pick it because I hate picking Miami in anything. I'm telling you, dude. I dislike Florida. I literally hate Miami. But I think Miami's going to win something like 42-20,
Mm, mm.
which is pretty close to the spread.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you. I think there is a plausible pathway to this game being close. Like you said, the history is on the side of it being close. I mean, I quoted it earlier. In the last 24 years, there's only been 4 blowouts.
Yeah.
So, right, they've played 25 times, and four of those, so 21 of those games were within 1 score. So the odds of it being a 1-score game versus a blowout is much closer to the being a 1-score game for sure. I think if the defense is put in a great situation, this could be a closer game. I think if the offense finds some life, this could be a closer game. I think if Miami's defense plays the same way that it always has been playing the last 3 games, can find some life. I think Cam Ward has been way up here. Like we said, his boom rate is really here, and he's been hitting it. But as you know, you never always stay up there. And you're going to have one of those games. And I think that could be this game. He'd be overhyped for it. All those things are true. But Jesse, what happens when you put gas in a car?
It runs.
It runs. But what happens when you open up the hood and it ain't got no engine?
It's Florida State's offense.
It's Florida State's offense. Therefore, I'm going 45-13 Miami. Ugh.
Yeah, I hate it, man. I don't even know. I had it originally like 42-17, but I think we might get 20 on that defense, which may be, it ain't Moral Gables, but it would finally at least be 20
I told
points,
you
so.
I was never picking them to score over 20 points until I actually see it again. So I can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, really, no one's held them under like 30 points, so and we're not scoring 30 points. So, I mean, hopefully, again, you never know, man. It's a rivalry game. Anything goes in a rivalry game. The stats go out the window, so we'll see. But 7-0 and 1-6 is kind of a hard stat to throw out the window.
Right.
But with that being said, guys, that's going to do it for us. We appreciate you watching. Why? Before we get out of here, we got one more issue to address. Look, Miami fans, don't forget, we still hate you.
Yes.
So it is what it is.
Now, Jesse, you know who we don't hate? You know who we love and depend?
Oh,
Alumni Hall.
That would be Alumni Hall. I forgot to read the ad read, just like Florida State forgot to score points in the game. But with that being said, if you guys want some awesome FSU gear, look, the team might suck, but Alumni Hall's gear does not suck. They have everything you need, from game day supplies, clothes, hats, everything that you need. This hat came from there. This shirt came from there. Make sure you guys check them out. 1415 Timberlane Road in Tallahassee, or shop online at alumnihall.com. Navigate over to the Florida State page. Make sure that you save 10% with code SPEAR. Again, guys, they got great stuff over there. And so we got a couple of home games coming up. North Carolina's coming up. You're going to want to grab some gear for that. It's getting colder out, so you might want to grab a hoodie or something like that as well. So, man, it was great at that Duke game. I will say that. Not the game itself, but the weather was actually great. So I could get used to that. But, yeah, make sure you go check those guys out. We appreciate them for supporting us and for you guys supporting those that have supported us for so long. So that's Alumni Hall FSU. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Drop a like and subscribe if you watch this episode. Miami fans, I know you probably already liked and subscribed just because you're hate watching, and that's fine too.
That's fine.
We'll catch y'all after the game as well. Although, if Florida State has a chance to do the funniest thing ever, Michael, and I'm telling you right now, Miami fans,
We're warning you.
If Florida State screws around and wins this game, I expect you to be in the comments. I expect you to be there anyway.
Yes.
You might want to log off for the rest of the season, because I might can forgive 1-6 if we win this game. I'll be mad, but I might can forgive it. If you lose to the worst team in 50 years that Florida State's had with your best team in 20 years, it's going to be a long day for Miami fans. So we'll see, man. All the pressure's on them. There's literally no pressure on Florida State. Everyone expects us to get blown out. So we'll see. But like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed this video. Rate and review on a podcast. Tell a friend. We appreciate you guys sticking with us. Look, this ain't the season that we asked for.
Yep.
It's tough to talk about. So hopefully you guys are still enjoying our content here. So we appreciate you guys tuning in week after week. Man, love y'all. Mean it. Hopefully Saturday goes well. We'll see you on the other. We'll see you on the other side, guys. I appreciate you tuning in. As always, go Noles.
Go Noles.